How does a family discover they lost the house they were already dividing, without anyone warning them first? What happens when a man everyone stopped acknowledging quietly makes the only move that still belonged to him? This is how I let them learn the truth after it was already irreversible. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. The bills started showing up in my kitchen like clockwork, not envelopes addressed to me with a polite request inside, just forwarded emails, screenshots of invoices, sometimes a text message with a dollar amount and a date, as if I were a bank and they were making a withdrawal request. I stood at the counter, coffee going cold in my hand, staring at the latest one. Landon's car insurance, $847, due in 5 days. No, "Hey Dad," at the top. No, "Would you mind," anywhere in the body. Just the invoice forwarded at 11:03 p.m., with the assumption I would handle it. I opened my phone and scrolled up through the thread. Tara's dentist bill from 3 weeks ago. Maribel's gym membership renewal before that. A shared streaming service subscription I did not use and had never been asked about. The list went back 4 months without interruption. Each one formatted the same way. A screenshot, a due date, sometimes a single word. Thanks. I paid the car insurance. Then I opened the family group chat. It was named Calyx Crew, which Maribel had changed it to last year after some motivational post she saw online about family branding. I scrolled through the last 30 messages. Landon asking if anyone wanted to grab lunch Sunday, Tara sharing a meme about coffee, Maribel posting a photo of a new handbag with 3 fire emojis. I had not been tagged in a single message for 2 weeks, not one. I kept scrolling, back further. A month ago, Landon had written, "We should all plan something for the holidays." 4 people reacted with thumbs ups. I was not one of them, because I had not been included in the we. I set the phone down and looked at the kitchen table. There were 3 chairs. I lived alone. I had lived alone since the divorce 8 years ago, and no one had objected then because I was still writing checks. The insulation company I had built over 23 years sold for enough to let me step back. Not retire rich, just step back. I put the money into dividend-yielding stocks and a few stable funds that sent deposits into my account every quarter, enough to cover my mortgage, groceries, insurance, and a modest cushion. But my family had done the math differently. To them, my income was not mine. It was theirs, a shared resource, an inheritance they had decided to access early, in monthly installments, whenever they felt like it. I sat down and opened my banking app. The last deposit had arrived 6 days ago, $4,100. In 2 weeks, another one would come. Like clockwork, predictable, reliable. That was the problem. They could predict it too. I pulled up my transaction history and scrolled through the past 6 months. Landon's roof repair in March, Tara's car down payment in February, Maribel's credit card payment in January. My own expenses were there too, scattered between theirs. Groceries, utilities, gas. The difference was clear. They asked. I paid. No one ever checked if I needed anything in return. I locked my phone and stood up. The kitchen was quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, someone's dog barked twice and stopped. I walked to the window and looked out at the driveway. My car sat alone under the carport. No one ever came by unless they needed something signed or handed over. The group chat buzzed. I picked up my phone. Maribel had written, "Has anyone talked to Wes about covering the leak repair at Landon's place? It's going to be like 1,300. Tara replied immediately, "I can ask." Landon added a thumbs up. No one had asked me yet. They were discussing it as if I were a line item, not a participant. I read it twice. Then I noticed the timestamp on an earlier message I had missed. It had been sent at 2:47 a.m., 3 days ago when I was asleep. Maribel had written, "Once the house is ours, we can redo the kitchen first. Then maybe add that deck Landon's been talking about." Tara had reacted with a heart emoji. Landon had replied, "Let's make a full list. No point planning halfway." I set the phone down again. Slowly, carefully. No point planning halfway. I stood there for a moment, staring at the screen. The message sat there, bright and casual, as if they were discussing weekend plans instead of dividing up my home. I walked to the drawer by the sink and pulled it open. Inside were the usual things. Pens, rubber bands, a small notepad I used for grocery lists. I took the notepad and wrote a single sentence. "They have already divided it." I tore off the page and looked at it. The words were plain, simple, true. I folded the paper and put it in my wallet, behind my driver's license where I would see it every time I opened it. Then I closed the drawer and went to bed. But I did not sleep right away. I lay there in the dark, thinking about the message, about the casual way they had planned renovations to a house I still lived in, about the way no one had thought to ask me first, about the way I had become invisible in my own life. The house settled around me. The heater clicked on. The wind rattled a loose shingle on the roof. All the familiar sounds of a place I had lived in for 30 years. A place that, according to my family, was already theirs. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow I would go about my day like nothing had changed. But something had. The cafe on Brenner Street was not the kind of place I usually went. It was too loud, too crowded, and the coffee cost twice what it should. But the tire shop next door had told me my car would not be ready for another hour, so I walked over and sat in the back corner with a cup I barely touched. The place smelled like burnt espresso and cinnamon. A barista shouted drink orders over the hiss of the steam wand. College students hunched over laptops at every table. A line of people stretched to the door, all of them staring at their phones while they waited. The noise was constant, conversations overlapping, the grind of the espresso machine, someone's phone ringing, a chair scraping across the floor. I was halfway through an article on my phone when I heard Maribel's voice. She was sitting 3 tables away with someone I did not recognize. A woman about her age, blonde, wearing oversized sunglasses pushed up into her hair. Maribel was talking fast, gesturing with her hands the way she did when she was excited. I kept my head down and listened. "I mean, it's not like he's using the space," Maribel said. "He rattles around in there by himself. Landon and I have been talking about it for months. Once it transfers, we can actually do something with it." The other woman laughed. "You're already planning renovations?" "Why not? It's a 4-bedroom house in a great neighborhood. The bones are solid. We just need to modernize it. New floors, open up the kitchen, maybe convert the garage into a studio. Wes won't care. He'll probably be relieved." "Has he said that?" Maribel waved a hand. "He doesn't say much about anything anymore. Honestly, I think he's checked out. Landon handles most of the family stuff now anyway." I took a sip of the coffee. It tasted like cardboard. The blonde woman leaned in, lowering her voice. I had to strain to hear her. "What if he doesn't want to transfer it?" Maribel snorted. "He's 58 and living off investment income. He's not going to live forever, and it's not like he has anyone else to leave it to. Tara and Landon are his only kids. It's just a matter of time. Still, you might want to, I don't know, make sure." "We are making sure," Maribel said, grinning. "We're being attentive, supportive. Landon calls him every week. I send him recipes he never makes. Tara checks in. We're doing our part. He'll come around." The blonde woman raised her cup in a mock toast. "To future renovations." Maribel clinked her cup against it. "To future renovations." I set my cup down carefully, my hand steady despite the heat building in my chest. They kept talking, their voices blending with the noise of the cafe. Maribel pulled out her phone and started showing her friends something. Photos, probably. Design ideas, paint swatches, floor samples. I could see her finger swiping across the screen, pausing, zooming in. They were planning my house like it was a project waiting to begin, like I was an obstacle with an expiration date. The blonde woman nodded along, offering suggestions. "You could knock out that wall between the kitchen and dining room. Open concept is huge right now." "Exactly," Maribel said. "That's what I told Landon. The place has potential. It just needs someone with vision. Someone with vision. As if I had been living there blind for 30 years. I stayed in my seat for another 20 minutes after they left. I did not move, did not check my phone, just sat there watching the door they had walked through. A young couple took the table Maribel had been sitting at. They ordered lattes and held hands across the table. Normal, easy. The way things were supposed to be. I stood up, left my full cup on the table, and walked back to the tire shop. The mechanic handed me the keys and explained what they had fixed. I nodded at the right moments, but did not hear a word. I paid with my card, got in my car, and drove home in silence. When I got there, I sat in the driveway for a long time before going inside. The sun was setting, the sky had turned orange and pink. The neighbor across the street was mowing his lawn. The sound of the mower was rhythmic, almost soothing. I watched him make neat lines back and forth across the grass. When he finished, he wiped his forehead and waved at me. I waved back. Then I got out of the car and went inside. The house felt different. Smaller somehow, like the walls had moved closer while I was gone. I stood in the kitchen and looked around. The same cabinets I had installed 20 years ago, the same refrigerator that hummed too loud, the same table where I ate every meal alone. This was mine, but to them, it was already theirs. I walked to the spare bedroom and opened the filing cabinet. I had been in here 2 days ago, but I pulled out the deed again anyway. Wes Calix, sole owner. I read it 3 times. Then I put it back and closed the drawer. I thought about the company I had built. 23 years of early mornings and late nights. 23 years of bidding on contracts and managing payroll and fixing problems no one else wanted to touch. I had sold it 3 years ago. The decision had not been easy, but it had been necessary. I was 55 and tired. Tired of the stress, tired of the responsibility, tired of waking up at 4 a.m. worrying about whether a job would finish on time. When I told Landon I was selling, he had clapped me on the back and said, "Finally, you've earned it, Dad." Tara had hugged me and said, "I'm so proud of you." Maribel had posted about it on social media. So grateful for a father-in-law who knows when to prioritize family time. The sale closed 4 months later. The money went into 3 places: paying off my mortgage, setting up the investment accounts, and putting a chunk into savings for emergencies. I did not buy a boat. I did not take a trip to Europe. I stayed in the same house, drove the same car, and lived the same life. But my family celebrated anyway. They celebrated my freedom, my availability, my liquidity. Within 6 months, the requests started. Small at first. A car repair Landon could not cover that month. A medical bill Tara's insurance did not pay in full. Maribel's student loans, which she said were crushing her even though she drove a leased SUV. I paid them, because that is what you do. You help your family. But somewhere along the way, help became expectation. Expectation became entitlement. And entitlement became a future plan that included the house I still lived in. I sat down at the desk in the spare bedroom and opened my laptop. I typed real estate attorney near me into the search bar and scrolled through the results. Elliot Crane, 30 years of experience, specializing in property law and estate planning. I clicked on his website. Professional, clean, no gimmicks. His bio mentioned discreet handling of sensitive family matters. Reviews praised his thoroughness and confidentiality. I saved his contact information and closed the laptop. Then I sat there in the dark for a while, listening to the house settle around me. The refrigerator hummed, the heater clicked on. Somewhere outside, a car drove past. I pulled the folded paper from my wallet, the one with the sentence I had written last night. They have already divided it. I smoothed it out on the desk and stared at it. Then I picked up a pen and added another line underneath. Tomorrow, I call the attorney. I folded the paper again and put it back in my wallet. Then I walked to the living room and sat down on the couch. The same couch I had bought 15 years ago when Landon was still in college. The cushions sagged in the middle, and there was a faint stain on the armrest from where Tara had spilled juice when she was 12. I remembered that day. She had been so upset, crying and apologizing over and over. I had told her it was just a couch, that it did not matter. Now I wondered if anything I had ever said mattered to any of them. I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat. Scrolled back through months of messages, photos of meals I had not been invited to, inside jokes I did not understand, plans made without my input. I kept scrolling until I found the message from 2 weeks ago. Maribel. Once the house is ours, we can redo the kitchen first. I stared at it until the screen went dark. Tomorrow, I would call him. Tonight, I would sleep in a house that was still mine. Landon and Maribel came over for dinner on a Thursday night. Tara showed up 20 minutes late, apologizing about traffic that I knew was not that bad. I had spent the afternoon cleaning, not because the house was dirty, but because I needed something to do with my hands. I vacuumed the living room, wiped down the kitchen counters, set the table with plates I had not used in months. We sat in the living room because the dining table was too small for 4 people to eat comfortably. I had made spaghetti, plain, simple, the way I always made it. Maribel picked at hers and said it needed more garlic. No one asked how I was doing. Landon talked about work, something about a client who kept changing project specs. He spoke with his mouth full, gesturing with his fork. Maribel interrupted twice to tell a story about her sister, who I had never met and did not care about. Tara scrolled through her phone between bites, occasionally laughing at something on her screen. I sat in the armchair across from them and ate in silence. The television was off. The only sound was the scrape of forks against plates and the hum of the refrigerator in the next room. At one point, Maribel looked around the room and said, "You know, Wes, this space has so much potential. If you ever wanted to update it, we could help you pick out some new furniture, something more modern." I nodded. "I'll keep that in mind." She smiled like I had agreed to something. Landon leaned back on the couch and stretched his arms over his head. "Honestly, Dad, you should think about downsizing. This place is a lot of house for one person. You'd probably be happier in a condo or something. Less maintenance." I looked at him. "I like it here." "Sure, but long term? I mean, you're not getting any younger. Stairs, yard work. It adds up. Maribel nodded enthusiastically. And you'd free up so much equity. You could travel, relax, enjoy yourself. I set my fork down. I am enjoying myself. There was a pause. Landon exchanged a glance with Maribel, the kind of glance that said they had talked about this before, rehearsed it even. We're just saying, Maribel continued, softer now, you've got options. You don't have to stay in one place just because it's familiar. Tara finally looked up from her phone. Can we not do this tonight? Landon frowned. Do what? This. The whole dad should move thing. It's his house. Maribel's smile tightened. We're not pressuring him. We're offering perspective. It sounds like pressure, Tara said. You're being dramatic. I'm not. You are. I stood up. I'm going to get some water. Anyone need anything? No one answered. I walked into the kitchen and filled a glass at the sink. Through the doorway, I could hear them talking in low voices. I could not make out the words, but the tone was clear. Tara had backed down. Landon was making a point. Maribel was agreeing. I drank the water slowly, then refilled the glass and drank it again. I looked out the window above the sink. The backyard was dark except for the motion sensor light by the fence. A raccoon wandered across the grass, paused to look at the house, then disappeared into the bushes. I wondered what it was like to move through the world without anyone expecting anything from you. When I came back, the conversation had shifted to something about a vacation they were planning. Maribel was talking about a resort in Mexico. Landon was nodding along. Tara had gone back to her phone. I sat down and let the words wash over me. Maribel laughed at something Landon said. Tara smiled politely. No one looked at me. I finished my spaghetti and set the plate on the coffee table. Landon glanced at it, then at me. You're quiet tonight, Dad. Just listening, I said. You feeling okay? I'm fine. He nodded and went back to his conversation with Maribel. The meal dragged on for another 30 minutes. Maribel talked about a new gym she had joined. Landon complained about a coworker. Tara mentioned something about a project at work, but did not elaborate when no one asked her to. I sat there and watched them, really watched them. The way Landon leaned back like he owned the place. The way Maribel's eyes scanned the room, cataloging, evaluating, planning. The way Tara stayed on the edges, present but not really part of it. At the end of the meal, they left their plates on the coffee table. I stacked them and carried them to the kitchen while they gathered their things. Landon gave me a brief hug on the way out. Thanks for dinner, Dad, Maribel waved. See you soon. Tara hesitated at the door. You okay? I'm fine, I said. She nodded, but she did not look convinced. Call me if you need anything. I will, I said, knowing I would not. I closed the door behind them and locked it. The house was quiet again. I stood in the hallway for a minute, then walked to the living room and picked up my phone. The family chat had 3 new messages. Maribel had written, "That went well." Landon had replied, "Yeah, he's fine." Tara had not responded. I read the messages twice, then I set the phone down and walked to the kitchen. I washed the dishes by hand, even though I had a dishwasher. The hot water felt good on my hands. The repetitive motion was calming. When I finished, I dried everything and put it away. Then I walked to the spare bedroom and opened the filing cabinet. The deed was still there, right where I had left it. I pulled it out and set it on the desk. Then I opened my phone and scrolled to the contact I had saved 2 days earlier. Elliot Crane, real estate attorney. I stared at the number for a long time. Then I got in my car, drove to the end of the block, and made the call. He answered on the second ring. Mr. Crane, I said, my name is Wes Calix. I'd like to discuss my options regarding property I own. His voice was calm, professional. Of course. When would you like to come in? Tomorrow, I said, if you have time. I can make time. How does 10 o'clock sound? That works. Good. I'll see you then, Mr. Calix. I ended the call and sat in the car with the engine off. The streetlights flickered on. A neighbor walked past with a dog on a leash. The dog stopped to sniff a tree, and the neighbor waited patiently, scrolling through his phone. The sky faded from blue to gray to black. I thought about the dinner, about the way Landon had stretched out on the couch like he already lived there, about the way Maribel had looked at the walls like she was measuring them for paint, about the way no one had asked me how I was doing. I started the car and drove home. When I got there, I walked straight to the spare bedroom and wrote a single sentence on the notepad by the computer. Tomorrow it begins. Then I closed the door and went to bed. The bank was quiet on Tuesday morning. I sat across from Nora Finch, the relationship manager I had worked with for the past 5 years. She had my account summary pulled up on her screen and was nodding as she scrolled through the numbers. "Everything looks stable," she said. "Your dividends are coming in consistently. No red flags. You're in good shape, Mr. Calix." "That's what I wanted to confirm," I said. She glanced up. "Planning anything specific?" "Just making sure I understand my position." She smiled. "Well, you're in a strong one. Passive income like this is reliable as long as the market stays steady, and even if it dips, you've got enough diversity to weather it. You're not dependent on anyone." I nodded. "Good to know." She printed a summary and slid it across the desk. "If you ever want to adjust your strategy, just let me know. But honestly, you've set yourself up well." I folded the paper and put it in my jacket pocket. "Thank you." She leaned forward slightly, her expression shifting to something more personal. "You know, Mr. Calix, I've been doing this job for 15 years. I can usually tell when someone's planning a major move. You've got that look." "What look?" "The look of someone who's done being underestimated." I met her eyes and said nothing. She smiled again, this time with understanding. "Whatever you're planning, you've got the financial foundation to do it right. That's all I'll say." Outside, I sat in my car and reviewed the numbers again. 4,100 every quarter. Predictable, reliable. Enough. I drove home and went straight to the spare bedroom. The filing cabinet was still open from the last time I had been in there. I pulled out a folder labeled Property Documents and spread everything across the desk. The deed. The original mortgage paperwork stamped paid in full 3 years ago. The homeowner's insurance policy. The property tax receipts. Everything in my name. No co-signers. No joint ownership. No claims. I sat down and read through each document carefully, making notes on a legal pad. Dates, references, legal language I looked up when I was not sure. By the time I finished, it was almost noon. I opened my laptop and typed a single sentence into a new document. Property transfer timeline. Below it, I added another line. Final walkthrough, 2 weeks. Then I saved it and closed the computer. The afternoon stretched out in front of me. I made a sandwich I barely tasted, then stood at the kitchen window watching the neighbors across the street, an older couple I had exchanged waves with for years, but never really spoken to. They were loading groceries from their car, moving slowly but together. I wondered if they had children who called them regularly, who visited without asking for anything, who remembered their birthdays without calendar reminders. I turned away from the window. That afternoon, I walked to the hardware store 3 blocks away. It was a habit I had kept from my working days. I liked the smell of sawdust and paint. I liked the narrow aisles and the fluorescent lights. I liked that no one bothered me. I was looking at a set of door hinges when I heard Landon's voice near the front of the store. I looked up. He was standing by the checkout counter with 2 other men I did not recognize. They were laughing about something. I stayed where I was and listened. "Yeah, my dad's got this huge place," Landon was saying. 4 bedrooms. Way too much for one guy. I keep telling him to downsize, but you know how old people are. Stubborn. One of the other men chuckled. "My mom's the same way." "It's not even about the house," Landon continued. "It's about control. He sold his business, so now the house is the only thing he's got left to hold on to. I get it, but it's kind of sad, you know? Like, let it go, man. Enjoy your life." The other man nodded. "Maybe he just needs time." Landon shrugged. "Maybe, or maybe he needs a push." They laughed again, and Landon paid for whatever he was buying. I stood there, hinges in hand, watching my son joke about pushing me out of my own home. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A forklift beeped somewhere in the back of the store. Everything felt distant and sharp at the same time. I waited until they left before I walked to the counter with the hinges. The cashier rang me up without saying anything. I paid in cash and walked home. The walk took longer than usual. I stopped twice, once to let a car pass even though I had the right of way, and once just to stand on the corner and look at nothing in particular. When I got back, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at my phone. The family chat had 2 new messages. Maribel had sent a link to a furniture website with a note. These would look amazing in the living room. Tara had reacted with a heart emoji. I opened the thread and typed, "I'll be out of town this weekend. Don't stop by." I hit send before I could change my mind. Landon replied 30 seconds later. "Where are you going?" I did not answer. Maribel wrote, "Everything okay?" Still, I did not respond. Tara added, "Dad?" I locked my phone, walked to the office, and opened the folder I had labeled with a single date 2 weeks from now. Inside was a blank piece of paper. I picked up a pen and wrote one word in the center. Saturday. Then I put the paper back, closed the folder, and placed it at the front of the filing cabinet where I would see it every time I opened the drawer. That evening, I made dinner for myself. Chicken breast, rice, steamed vegetables. I ate at the kitchen table with the television off, the only sound the scrape of my fork against the plate. When I finished, I washed the dishes, dried them, and put them away. Then I sat in the living room with all the lights off and watched the sun go down through the window. My phone buzzed 3 more times. I did not check it. Elliot Crane's office smelled like leather and old paper, the kind of smell that made you think everything in the room had been there for decades, even though the computer on his desk was new. He sat across from me with a notepad and a pen, listening without interrupting. I had explained the situation in under 5 minutes. The house, the family, the assumptions, the overheard conversations. When I finished, he set the pen down and leaned back in his chair. "You want to sell?" he said. "Yes." "And you want to do it quietly?" "Yes." He nodded slowly, his fingers steepled under his chin. "That's not complicated legally. You're the sole owner. You don't need anyone's permission. The question is whether you want them to know beforehand." "No," I said. "I don't." He studied me for a moment. His office was silent except for the faint ticking of a clock on the wall behind him. "You understand that's going to create a reaction." "I'm counting on it." He picked up the pen again and made a note. "All right, here's what we'll do. I'll connect you with a title company I work with. They're discreet. We'll handle the paperwork privately. You'll sign everything in advance. When you're ready, we'll close the sale in 1 day. No drama, no delays." "How long will it take to find a buyer?" "Depends on the market. But if you're flexible on price and timeline, I can have someone by the end of the month." I thought about it. "I'm flexible." "Good." He wrote something else, then looked up. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." I waited. "Are you doing this out of spite, or are you doing this because it's the right move for you?" I considered the question. "Both." He nodded. "That's fair, as long as you're clear about it." He tapped his pen against the notepad. "One more thing. Once this happens, your family is going to react. They may try to contest it. They may accuse you of acting irrationally. You need to be prepared for that." "I am," I said. "They might claim undue influence, diminished capacity, anything to delay or reverse the sale. Do you have documentation of your financial stability? Medical records showing you're of sound mind?" "I can get whatever you need." "Good. Get a letter from your doctor. Basic physical. Cognitive assessment, if possible. We'll attach it to the file. That way, if they try anything, we have proof you were fully competent when you made this decision." I nodded. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he stood and extended his hand. "All right, Mr. Calix, let's get started." I shook his hand and left. The next 2 weeks moved faster than I expected. The title company sent an inspector. The inspector found nothing wrong. The buyer, a quiet couple in their 40s relocating for work, made an offer that was fair. I accepted it the same day. I scheduled the appointment with my doctor. He asked why I needed the assessment. I told him I was making some financial decisions and wanted documentation. He ran the tests, cognitive function, memory, reasoning. I passed everything. "You're sharper than most people half your age," he said, signing the report. I took the report to Elliot. He made copies and filed them with the rest of the paperwork. "This is bulletproof," he said. "They won't have a case." Elliot called me 3 days later. "We're set to close next Friday. You'll sign everything Thursday afternoon. The buyers take possession Saturday morning." "Understood," I said. "One last thing," he added. "Are you sure about the timing?" "I'm sure." "All right. See you Thursday." I hung up and opened my calendar. The family gathering was scheduled for Saturday at 2 p.m. Maribel had sent the invitation 2 weeks ago. "Backyard cookout at Wes's place. Bring drinks." I had confirmed I would be there. I would be, just not the way they expected. The days between the phone call and Thursday moved in slow motion. I went through my house room by room, not packing, just looking, remembering. The scratch on the hallway wall from when Landon was 7 and crashed his bike indoors. The window in the kitchen I had replaced after a storm. The loose floorboard in the bedroom I had never fixed because it reminded me the house was real, not perfect. I took nothing with me but what I needed. On Thursday afternoon, I sat in the title company office and signed 23 pages of documents. My hand cramped by the end, but I did not stop. The notary stamped the final page, and the agent handed me a folder with copies of everything. "Congratulations, Mr. Calix," she said. "The house is officially sold." I nodded. "Thank you." I walked out into the parking lot, got in my car, and sat there for a while. Then I drove to a hardware store across town and had 3 copies of the new keys made. I kept one, I mailed one to the title company. I left one in a sealed envelope on the kitchen counter with the buyer's name on it. That night, I packed a single duffel bag. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, the folder from Elliot's office. I set the bag by the front door and walked through the house one last time. The kitchen where the bills had piled up, the living room where my family had sat and ignored me, the office where I had planned everything in silence. I stood in each room for a full minute, letting the quiet settle around me. Then I turned off the lights and locked the door behind me. I did not look back. I spent Friday night in a motel 20 miles away. I did not tell anyone where I was. I did not answer my phone. I deleted the family group chat and blocked the notifications. The room smelled like cheap detergent and stale air conditioning. I lay on the bed with my shoes still on, staring at the ceiling, and felt nothing but calm. On Saturday morning, I drove back to the house and parked 2 blocks away. I sat in the car and waited. At 1:47 p.m., Landon's truck pulled into the driveway. Maribel got out first, carrying a cooler. Landon followed with a folding chair under one arm. Tara's car arrived 3 minutes later. She had brought a salad in a plastic container. I watched from down the street as they unloaded everything into the backyard. I could see them through the fence slats, moving around, setting things up. Maribel was pointing at something. Landon was laughing. No one had noticed I was not there yet. I sat in my car with the windows cracked, letting the spring air drift through. The neighborhood was quiet. A few houses down, someone was washing their car. The sound of water hitting pavement carried on the breeze. At 2:15, Maribel walked to the front door and tried the handle. Locked. She knocked. No answer. She pulled out her phone and called me. I let it ring. She knocked again, harder this time. Landon came around from the back, wiping his hands on his jeans. "He's not answering?" Landon asked. "No, and the door's locked." "Maybe he's running late." "He said he'd be here." Tara joined them on the porch. "Did you try calling?" 3 times, Maribel said. They stood there for a moment, uncertain. Then Landon tried the door himself, as if his attempt would produce a different result. "This is weird," he said. "Maybe he forgot," Tara offered. "He confirmed yesterday," Maribel said, frustration creeping into her voice. I watched them pull out their phones, typing messages I would not see. Maribel tried calling again. Landon walked around the side of the house, peering through windows. Tara stood on the porch, arms crossed, looking worried. Landon came back to the front. "All the windows are locked. I can't see anyone inside." "Where could he be?" Maribel asked. "I don't know," Landon said. "This doesn't make sense." Tara checked her phone. "He's not responding to texts either." They stood there in a tight circle, their voices rising and falling. I could not hear every word, but I could see the confusion turning into irritation. Maribel kept looking at her watch. Landon kept trying the door handle. At 2:34, a silver sedan pulled up to the curb. A woman in a business suit got out, carrying a leather portfolio. She walked up the driveway with the confidence of someone who belonged there. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you the Calix family?" Landon turned. "Yeah, who are you?" "My name is Nomi Roth. I'm with Crestwood Title Company." She opened her portfolio and pulled out a document. "I'm here to conduct the final walkthrough for the new owners. They'll be arriving in about 20 minutes. The words hung in the air. Maribel was the first to speak. "What new owners?" Nomi looked at them, then down at her paperwork. "The buyers. Mr. and Mrs. Holloway. They closed on this property yesterday afternoon." "That's not possible," Landon said. "This is my father's house." "It was," Nomi said carefully. "The sale was completed through our office. All documents are in order. The deed transferred yesterday at 3:15 p.m. Maribel's face went pale. "He sold it?" "Yes, ma'am." "Without telling us?" Nomi's expression remained neutral. "I'm not privy to family communications. I'm just here to facilitate the transfer." Tara stepped forward. "There has to be a mistake. Our father wouldn't do this without telling us." "There's no mistake," Nomi said. She held up the document. "I have copies of the signed deed, the closing statement, and the transfer of ownership. Would you like to see them?" Landon snatched the papers from her hand. His eyes scanned the pages, moving faster and faster. Maribel looked over his shoulder, her mouth opening and closing without sound. "This can't be legal," Landon said finally. "He's not capable of making decisions like this." "According to the documentation we have, Mr. Calix underwent a full medical and cognitive assessment 1 week prior to the sale. He was deemed fully competent. His attorney has all supporting records on file." "His attorney?" Maribel's voice was sharp. "What attorney?" "Elliot Crane. He's listed here as the representing counsel for the seller." Landon's hands were shaking. "Where is he? Where's my father? I don't have that information, Nomi said. My only role is to ensure a smooth transfer of property. Maribel grabbed Landon's arm. Call him again, right now. Landon pulled out his phone and dialed. I watched him press it to his ear, his jaw clenched. After a moment, he lowered it. Voicemail. Try Elliot Crane, Maribel said. I don't have his number, Landon said. Nomi cleared her throat. Mr. Crane's contact information is in the documentation, but I should inform you that he's already stated he won't be discussing this transaction with anyone other than Mr. Calix. This is insane, Maribel said. She turned to Tara. Did you know about this? No, Tara said quietly. I had no idea. He must have said something. You talk to him more than we do. He didn't say anything. At 2:52, a blue SUV pulled into the driveway behind Landon's truck. A man and a woman got out, both smiling. The man was tall, wearing a polo shirt. The woman had short gray hair and carried a small dog in her arms. Is this the Calix gathering? The man asked cheerfully. No, Nomi said quickly, stepping forward. Mr. and Mrs. Holloway, these are members of the previous owner's family. They were just leaving. The woman's smile faltered. Oh, we thought there was a cookout. There was supposed to be, Maribel said, her voice tight. But apparently we don't own this house anymore. Mrs. Holloway looked confused. I'm sorry? Don't be, Landon said bitterly. He handed the papers back to Nomi and turned to Maribel and Tara. Let's go. We can't just leave, Maribel said. What do you want to do? Stand here and watch them move in? We need to find him, Tara said quietly. We need to talk to him. Good luck with that, Landon said. He walked to his truck, got in, and slammed the door. Maribel stood frozen on the porch, staring at the house like she could will it back into existence under their name. Tara touched her arm gently. Come on, Tara said. We should go. Maribel pulled away. This is insane. He can't do this. He already did, Tara said. Nomi cleared her throat. I'm going to need you to clear the property now. The new owners are taking possession as of 3:00 p.m. Maribel turned to her, anger flashing in her eyes. You think this is okay? Helping someone screw over their own family? I think this is a legal transaction between consenting parties, Nomi said evenly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. She walked past them to unlock the front door with the new keys. Mr. Holloway gave them an awkward wave. Sorry about all this. No one responded. Tara guided Maribel off the porch. They walked to Tara's car in silence. Maribel got in without looking back. Landon's truck was already gone. Tara paused before getting in her car. She pulled out her phone and tried calling me one more time. I watched her standing there, phone pressed to her ear, waiting for an answer that would not come. She lowered the phone slowly. For a moment, she just stood there, looking at the house. Then she looked up and down the street, as if searching for something, as if she knew I might be watching. Then she got in the car and drove away. At 3:07, the backyard was empty except for the cooler, the folding chair, and the untouched salad. Mr. and Mrs. Holloway walked through their new house, exclaiming over the space, the light, the potential. Nomi Roth finished her walkthrough and got back in her car. I sat in mine for another 10 minutes, watching the house where I had raised my children, the house where I had built a life, the house that had stopped being mine long before I sold it. I started my engine and drove in the opposite direction. The folder with all the documents sat on the passenger seat beside me. I did not turn on the radio. I just drove. I checked into a different motel that night, 30 miles south of town. The clerk barely looked at me when I paid in cash. I carried my duffel bag to room 118, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. My phone had been off since yesterday. I turned it on now and watched the notifications flood in. 47 missed calls, 63 text messages, 12 voicemails. I opened the call log first. Landon had called 18 times. Maribel, 14. Tara, 15. The rest were from numbers I did not recognize. Probably friends of theirs, people I had met at holidays and forgotten about. I deleted the call log without listening to the voicemails. Then I opened the messages. Landon, where are you? Landon, call me back right now. Landon, Dad, what the hell did you do? Landon, this is insane. You can't do this. Landon, we need to talk. Call me. Maribel, Wes, please answer your phone. Maribel, I don't understand what's happening. Maribel, you're making a huge mistake. Maribel, we can fix this if you just talk to us. Tara, Dad, I'm worried. Where are you? Tara, please just let us know you're okay. Tara. I don't understand why you did this, but we should talk. Tara. I'm not mad. I just want to understand. I scrolled through all of them without responding. The messages got angrier as the day went on. Accusations mixed with pleas. Confusion turned to rage and back again. At the bottom of the thread was a message from a number I did not have saved. I opened it. Mr. Calix, this is Elliot Crane. Your family has contacted my office multiple times today. I've informed them that all transactions were legal and binding. I wanted to confirm that you don't wish to speak with them. Let me know if that changes. I typed back, no contact, thank you. He replied within a minute. Understood. Let me know if you need anything else. I turned the phone off again and set it on the nightstand. The room was small and clean. A bed, a desk, a television bolted to the wall. A bathroom with a shower that dripped every few seconds. The walls were thin enough that I could hear a couple arguing 2 rooms down. Their voices rose and fell, muffled but persistent. I could not make out the words, but I recognized the rhythm. The accusation, the defense, the escalation. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The next morning, I drove to a diner 6 miles away. It was the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted burned, but was strong enough to wake you up. I ordered eggs, toast, and bacon. The waitress refilled my coffee without asking. I ate slowly, watching the other customers, a construction crew laughing over pancakes, an older woman reading a newspaper with her glasses perched on her nose, a young couple feeding their baby mashed bananas. No one looked at me. No one asked for anything. No one needed me to be anything other than a man eating breakfast. When I finished, I left a 20 on the table and walked out. The sky was overcast, threatening rain. I got in my car and sat there for a moment, watching people come and go from the diner. A man in a suit checking his phone, a woman with 2 kids who looked exhausted, an older couple walking slowly, hand in hand. I spent the rest of the day driving. No destination, just roads. I passed through 3 small towns I had never been to, stopped at a gas station to fill the tank, and kept going. The landscape changed as I drove. Flat farmland gave way to rolling hills. The towns got smaller, the spaces between them wider. Around 4 in the afternoon, I pulled into a rest area and parked under a tree. I got out and sat at a picnic table, watching the highway traffic blur past. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. A family walked past me toward the restrooms. 2 kids chasing each other while their parents called after them to slow down. The father caught the younger one and swung him up onto his shoulders. The kid shrieked with laughter. The mother smiled at me as they passed. Just a polite acknowledgement. Nothing more. I watched them until they disappeared around the corner. Then I got back in my car and kept driving. The rain started an hour later. Light at first, then heavier. I turned on the wipers and kept going, watching the road disappear and reappear through the sheets of water. By evening, I found myself in a town called Ridgemont. Population 4,200, according to the sign. It had a main street with a hardware store, a pharmacy, a diner, and a small library. The kind of place where everyone probably knew everyone, but no one knew me. I checked into a bed and breakfast on the edge of town. The owner, a woman in her 60s named Helen, showed me to a room on the 2nd floor with a view of the hills. "You here for business or pleasure?" she asked as she handed me the key. "Neither," I said. "Just passing through." She nodded like that made perfect sense. "Well, breakfast is at 7 if you want it. Otherwise, help yourself to coffee any time." I thanked her and closed the door. The room was nicer than the motel. Hardwood floors, a quilt on the bed, a small desk by the window. I set my bag down and looked outside. The sun was setting behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The town below was quiet, lights starting to flicker on in windows. I sat at the desk and opened my laptop. There was an email from Elliot Crane with the subject line, "Final documentation." I opened it. Inside was a PDF of the completed sale. Everything signed, everything filed, everything final. I saved the file and closed the laptop. Then I sat by the window and watched the sky turn dark. The rain had stopped. The air smelled clean. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear a dog barking. On the 3rd day, I turned my phone back on. The messages had slowed down. Only 5 new ones. 3 from Landon, 2 from Tara, nothing from Maribel. Landon. I talked to a lawyer. This isn't over. Landon. You're not getting away with this. Landon. Call me. Tara. Dad, please. I just want to know you're safe. Tara. I'm not angry, I promise. Just talk to me. I read them twice. Then I opened a new message and typed, "I'm fine. Don't look for me." I sent it to Tara only. She replied within seconds. "Where are you?" I did not answer. I deleted the thread and turned the phone off again. That afternoon, I walked into town. The hardware store had a help wanted sign in the window. Part-time, no experience necessary. I stood outside for a minute, then kept walking. The library was open. I went inside and spent 2 hours reading in a chair by the window. No one bothered me. When I left, the librarian smiled and said, "See you tomorrow." I nodded and walked back to the bed and breakfast. Helen was in the kitchen when I came in. She offered me tea. I accepted. We sat at the table and talked about nothing important. The weather, the town, how quiet it was compared to the city. "You running from something?" she asked eventually. "No," I said. "Just running towards something quieter." She nodded. "That's as good a reason as any." She poured more tea. "You planning to stay long?" "I don't know yet," I said. "Well," she said, "there's worse places to figure things out." I finished the tea and went upstairs. That night, I slept better than I had in months. By the end of the first week, I had fallen into a routine. Wake up at 6, coffee on the porch, walk into town by 8, breakfast at the diner where the waitress now knew I took my coffee black. Spend the morning at the library reading or using the computer, lunch at a sandwich shop on Main Street, afternoons walking the trails behind the town or sitting by the river that ran through the park. I spoke to no one unless spoken to. I kept my phone off except to check messages once a day. The calls had stopped. The texts had slowed to 1 or 2 a week, all from Tara. "Tara, I hope you're okay." "Tara, Landon's really angry. Maribel too. I don't know what to say to them." "Tara, I wish you'd talk to me." I never replied. The town moved at its own pace, slower than what I was used to. People stopped to talk on the sidewalk. The post office closed for lunch. The library had a reading hour on Thursday afternoons where someone read to kids on the front steps. I liked the quiet. On the 10th day, I walked into the hardware store and asked about the help wanted sign. The owner, a man named Frank with gray hair and calloused hands, looked me over. "You know anything about tools?" "I ran an insulation company for 23 years, I said. He nodded. "That'll do. When can you start?" "Tomorrow. 7 a.m. Don't be late." I showed up at 6:55 the next morning. Frank put me to work organizing inventory in the back room. Boxes of nails, screws, hinges, brackets. I labeled everything, stacked it neatly, and kept my head down. At lunch, Frank brought me a sandwich from the deli next door. "You don't talk much, do you?" "Not unless I need to," I said. He laughed. "Good. I can't stand people who run their mouths all day." The work was simple, physical. It kept my hands busy and my mind quiet. I liked it. Frank showed me how he wanted things organized, where the orders were kept, how to work the register. He moved slowly, methodically, explaining everything once and trusting I would remember. "You catch on quick," he said at the end of the first day. I just nodded. By the end of the second week, I had moved out of the bed and breakfast and into a small apartment above the pharmacy. 1 bedroom, a kitchenette, a bathroom with a shower that actually worked. The landlord, a retired school teacher named Mr. Pembroke, asked for first and last month's rent. I paid in cash. "You planning to stay a while?" he asked. "Maybe," I said. He handed me the keys. "Well, you seem like a decent sort. Keep it clean, pay on time, and we'll get along fine." I moved in that afternoon. The apartment was furnished with the basics. A bed, a table, 2 chairs, a couch that sagged in the middle. I bought a coffee maker at the hardware store and a few dishes from the thrift shop down the street. That night, I sat at the table and ate dinner alone. Chicken, rice, vegetables, the same meal I used to make in the house I no longer owned, but it tasted different now. The apartment had a window that looked out over Main Street. I could see the hardware store from there, the diner, the library, everything I needed within a few blocks. On day 16, I turned my phone on and found a message from Elliot Crane. "Your son attempted to file a legal challenge to the sale. It was dismissed. All documentation you provided was sufficient. The sale is final and cannot be reversed. You're clear." I read it 3 times. Then I typed back, "Thank you." I opened the message thread with Tara. Her last text was from 2 days ago. "Tara, Landon hired a lawyer. He's trying to undo the sale. I told him it wouldn't work, but he won't listen." I typed, "It won't work. Let it go." I hit send before I could change my mind. She replied immediately, "Dad, is that you?" I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I typed, "Yes." Tara. Where are you? Are you safe? Me. I'm fine. Don't ask where I am. Tara. Why did you do it? I looked at the question. I could have given her a dozen answers. Because they stopped seeing me. Because they treated my home like it was already theirs. Because I was tired of being invisible. Instead, I typed, because I could. Tara did not reply for 10 minutes. Then, Landon and Maribel hate you. They're saying terrible things. Me. I know. Tara. I don't hate you. I'm hurt, but I don't hate you. Me. Good. Tara. Will I ever see you again? I thought about it. Thought about the life I was building here, the quiet mornings, the simple work, the town where no one knew my name or what I had done. Me. I don't know. Tara. Okay. That was the last message. I turned the phone off and did not turn it back on for 3 days. Frank gave me more hours at the hardware store. I started opening the place in the mornings, turning on the lights, sweeping the floors, setting up the register. Customers came in and asked where things were. I pointed them in the right direction. Some of them started recognizing me, nodding when they walked in. One morning, an older man came in looking for a specific type of bolt. I found it for him in under a minute. You're good at this, he said. I've had practice, I said. He laughed. Well, keep it up. This place was a mess before you got here. I did not tell him I had only been there 3 weeks. The days blended together. Work, meals, walks, sleep, repeat. It was enough. On day 23, I walked past a small church on the edge of town. The doors were open. I could hear music inside. A piano, someone singing. I stood outside and listened for a while. The hymn was one I recognized from childhood, something my mother used to sing while she cooked dinner. I had not thought about it in years. Then I kept walking. That night, I sat on the porch of my apartment and watched the stars. The sky was clearer here than it had been back home. More stars, less light pollution. I thought about the house, about the backyard where my family had planned a cookout without me, about the moment they realized it was gone. I did not feel guilty. I felt free. A month passed, then another. The routine became normal. Work at the hardware store, meals at the diner, walks by the river. The apartment stayed clean and quiet. No one asked me for money. No one forwarded me bills. No one made plans that assumed my participation without asking. Frank promoted me to assistant manager. It came with a small raise and a key to the store. I opened and closed 3 days a week. I trained new employees. I ordered inventory. It was not the life I had imagined when I sold my company, but it was mine. Tara texted me once more, 6 weeks after our last conversation. Tara, Landon's not speaking to me because I won't hate you. Maribel blocked me. I don't know what to do. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, You don't have to do anything. Live your life. Tara, It's not that simple. Me, Yes, it is. She did not respond. I deleted the thread and turned off the phone. Helen from the bed and breakfast saw me in town one afternoon and invited me to dinner. I hesitated, then accepted. Her house was small and warm. She cooked roast chicken with potatoes and green beans. We ate at her kitchen table and talked about books, the weather, the town. You seem lighter than when you first got here, she said. I feel lighter, I said. Good. Whatever you were carrying, I'm glad you put it down. I nodded and did not elaborate. After dinner, I walked home under the streetlights. The town was quiet. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. A car drove past slowly, headlights sweeping across the pavement. I thought about the life I had left behind, the house that was not mine anymore, the family that had stopped seeing me long before I disappeared. I did not miss it. 3 months after I sold the house, I received an email from Elliot Crane. Your son has ceased all legal efforts. The matter is closed. If you need anything in the future, don't hesitate to reach out. I archived the email and closed my laptop. That afternoon, I walked into the bank in Ridgemont and opened a new account. Local, simple, just a checking account for my paychecks from the hardware store. The investment income still came in quarterly, deposited into the old account I had not touched. I left it there, untouched, growing quietly. I did not need it. The next week, Frank asked if I wanted to take over the store's bookkeeping. You've got a head for numbers, he said, and I hate doing it. I agreed. It gave me something to do in the evenings. I sat at my kitchen table with the ledgers and receipts, organizing everything, balancing accounts, tracking expenses. It was methodical, predictable, calming. On a Tuesday in late autumn, I was sweeping the front of the hardware store when a woman walked in with 2 kids. The younger one, a boy about 6, ran straight to the paint aisle and started pointing at colors. "Can we paint my room blue?" he asked. "We'll see," the woman said, smiling. I watched them browse, the kids chattering, the mother patient and attentive. When they checked out, the boy waved at me. I waved back. After they left, Frank leaned against the counter. "You got kids?" "2," I said. "They visit?" "No." He nodded slowly. "Their loss." I did not correct him. That night, I sat on my porch and thought about Landon and Tara. I wondered if they thought about me, if they regretted how things had ended, if they understood why I had done what I did. Then I stopped wondering. It did not matter anymore. The seasons changed. Winter came. Snow fell on Ridgemont, covering the hills and the main street in white. The hardware store got busier with people buying salt and shovels and space heaters. I worked longer hours, came home tired, slept well. On Christmas Eve, Helen invited me to her house again. This time, there were other people there, neighbors, friends, people I recognized from town but had never spoken to. They welcomed me without questions. We ate and talked and laughed. Someone played guitar. Someone else told stories about growing up in Ridgemont. At the end of the night, Helen walked me to the door. "I'm glad you stayed," she said. "Me too," I said. And I meant it. For the first time in years, I felt like I had won.